The Other Side with Charles Butler. Weekday evenings, 7 until 10 on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
I think you can take it further. When you talk about small businesses, what were small businesses looking for in January? They were looking for capital and credit coming off of the heat of the recession of 2009. They were looking for an administration that understood that through tax policy, we could maybe cut the capital gains tax, if not eliminate it outright. We could suspend the payroll tax for a year or 2 years. Those two steps alone, I mean, one of those would have been just an amazing burst of energy for the markets. But to do both of those would have right now we probably have maybe 5-6% unemployment. We'd have the stock market would be grounded solidly and moving forward. There would be a lot of good things that would happen. So when you don't take those steps, when you don't take the obvious measures, then you get to a point where the markets don't believe you're serious, and you see what we see right now, a jobless recovery in which the business community is saying, you know what, I'm going to stockpile my profit. I'm going to put it aside. I'm going to just save it. I'm not going to invest it. I'm not going to spend it, and I'm not going to create jobs. And that's where we are, and that's why on Tuesday the American people said enough.
Well, here we are broke, and you're taking 800 people to India.
I know. It is the most ludicrous thing. Okay, could you imagine in the midst of a war and an economic recession, George Bush saying, you know what, I'm going to get on a plane and I'm going to fly halfway around the world with 800 of my closest friends, spend, it may not be $200 million a week, but it's daggone sure close to $100 million a week to go someplace to talk about creating jobs.
It's incredible.
Charles, it makes no sense. And this is what is so aggravating to the people. This administration is out of touch. It is out of step. And look, I, like a lot of people, am very proud of the accomplishments of Barack Obama and the milestone in history that he represents. But damn. Well, this is about people who don't have jobs. This is about people. Do you know we've got 6 million people that are at or below the poverty level in this country right now? That's a lot of people that are looking for help, who are being hurt right now. You've got 4 million people who are underemployed right now. You've got an unemployment rate that far surpasses anything we were told would be the reality for the typical American, and that we're struggling down on the way to 10%. Focus on I don't want to say the simple stuff, but it is simple in that it's obvious, because that's what people are telling you they need help for, and it's just frustrating.
Mr. Chairman, I want to ask you one question, because I know this is going to come up, because they haven't been giving the RNC credit for the victories around the country, but they never do. I just want to get that out there, that you probably won't be getting any credit, the credit that you deserve, but none of the chairmen do.
Right. Well, they don't. But, I'll answer that two ways. One is to say and reiterate again that this was a team effort. It was working with the partners that we have, the other committees, and most importantly, our state party committees. You have an incredibly good leadership team there in Chicago, and certainly in Illinois with Brady and Demetra, and just the entire team is a strong team. They put a lot of effort into building out the party and getting good candidates. Isaac Hayes, really enjoyed being with him and campaigning with him and for him in his district, and certainly the other seats, both statewide and locally. So it's a team effort. But the other thing is that team effort, it only works when the RNC is engaged fully, and we were to the tune of $185 million over this cycle, 360 victory centers around the country. Charles, this is the first time the RNC has ever played in all 50 states and the territories.
Congratulations to you.
Where we were on the ground with boots, with technology, and with a strategy. It's the first time we've engaged by micro-targeting in every congressional district in the country, not 15, not 30, but every last one of them. So, making a difference means making the investment. We made it early. You probably read stories about, the RNC's broke. They have no money.
No, I didn't. Of course, I read those, but I knew how much money you were really raising, and you were making record-breaking efforts.
Exactly. You know what we did with it? As soon as I raised it, I spent it. Why am I going to sit here and stockpile cash so I can give a nice, fluffy cash on hand report to the Washington elites to make them feel like I'm doing something? What I did was put the money in the states. So we spent the money early, and so we have the show now. 45 million voters were contacted, which is, far exceeds what we did in all of 2008 with at 31 million. So that early money made a difference, and that's what we did. And it's different. I'm a different kind of chairman, as you probably could tell. And my approach and my style is much more grassroots. It's much more centered around how do you shake up the system, not how do you cajole it or appease it.
Mr. Chairman, can you take one call for me?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Okay. Hi, Gene from South.
Hi. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, good evening, Gene.
Congratulations, Michael Steele.
Thank you.
I'm a Democrat, and I voted for a Democratic governor. I thank God he won. However, I voted for Mark Kirk for senator for various reasons. And one of them was the Democrats treated Roland Burris badly. And the second reason is I want Mark Kirk and the Republican Party to repeal that crappy health care.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So let them know that.
I will. Right.
Thank you, Gene.
Gene, that is, so you should know that is one of the leading issues that will be addressed by the Republican House and those members of the Senate at the beginning of the new year. There is a groundswell of support for what you just described. It is repeal and replace, and it is pulling out of those bad, particularly those pieces that are going to have the most direct impact immediately, repealing those and coming to the table with some common sense approaches to health care. How do you have a health care reform where you're inserting the government in between the patient and the doctor? Oh, you're not going to include things like tort reform, and you're not going to include other aspects of reform that will get every player, every interest, from doctors to insurance companies to pharmaceuticals
and even
to healthcare providers.
Right, even the people. My beef is, how can you tell me that I have to pay so much a month and I'm not even sick? You're going to make me pay $700 and $800 a month and then fine me if I don't pay it?
Right. Yep. That's what the government does.
That. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Gene.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hey, Michael, we got some folks, man, who are out here thinking, and that's what I wanted to do, to tell folks that it's their constitutional right to vote the way that they want to vote and not in a monolithic manner.
Well, and you saw that around the country, and, people are kind of sitting back scratching their heads, and they're wondering, well, how come this person won as a Republican, but this person won as a Democrat? And what people have decided is I'm looking at the individuals, I'm looking at what they're saying, what they're standing for, and I'm acting on who's going to work in my best interest. And clearly, Gene was one of those voters who saw the value of voting for the Democrat for governor, and so, that's government that's closest to the people. In one sense, I understand that. But then she also looked at the bigger picture and said, right now on the table is this issue of health care where the government has already acted, and it doesn't impact my interest in a good way. And I need leadership that's going to go to Washington to undo the mess. And that's a very, as you said, very smart way to approach your politics, because it's all about your interest. It's not about government interest. It's not about even party interest. It's about your interest and what is important to you.
And, that's what I strive. I don't talk about go to the polls and vote Republicans, because I said vote your best interest. Vote for the person who represents you.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it. If you're going to be successful, you've got to look at, as we like to say in the neighborhood, spread the love a little bit. You keep people honest. You sort of tweak the system at the edges when you do that. And guys like me and Tim Kaine, we get it. We understand that the dynamics are such that we're now going to have to make sure our candidates are focused in on what the people are saying in their districts and in their communities. And they better have a good response, because if they don't, they're not going to win. And of course, longer term, people want to know that you're going to be there for them, and that you're going to cover their backs, if you will. And if you don't, again, you're not going to win.
The Other Side with Charles Butler, weekday evenings, 7 until 10, on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.